when you add integers with the same sign, the rule is to add the numbers and then keep the sign of those numbers. If we had 2 plus 3, 2 is positive and 3 is positive. Since they have the same sign, I'm going to add. I know 2 plus 3 is 5, and then I'm going to keep the sign. Since they're both positive, my answer is positive. Here I have negative 2 plus negative 3. I know that 2 is negative and 3 is negative. So these have the same sign, so I'm going to add them. 2 plus 3 is 5, and then I'm going to keep the sign. Since both of their signs are negative, my answer will be negative. In this case, negative 5. Now, you may have noticed that I ignored their signs and added them together, right? I said 2 plus 3 is 5. Ignoring their signs and adding them together is the same thing as adding the absolute values. And the absolute value is the distance from 0. And so the absolute value of negative 2, these straight bars are the absolute value notation. The absolute value of negative 2 would be 2, right? Because negative 2 is 2 away from 0. And the absolute value of 3 is 3, because negative 3 is 3 away from 0. So if we were to add these absolute values, 2 plus 3 is 5, right? And then I keep the sign of the numbers. So negative 2 plus negative 3 is negative 5. There are a couple ways we can model this. We can model it, first of all, with counters. We can use black counters to be positive numbers and red counters to be negative numbers. So if we had 2 plus 3, well, I have 2 positives, so 1, 2 positives, and I'm going to add 3 more positives. So let me add 1, 2, 3 positives. And so if I take 2 positives and add 3 positives, then of course I end up with 5 positives, which is just positive 5. Here I have negative 2 and negative 3. So I have 2 negatives, and I'm going to add 1, 2, 3 negatives. Negative 2 plus negative 3. So what am I left with? Well, I'm left with 5 negatives. And if I have 5 negatives, that's negative 5. We can also model this with a number line. In the problem 2 plus 3, the first number is where I'm going to start on the number line. So let me start at 2. Here's 2. I'm going to start there. And if I'm adding 3, that means I'm going to go to the right 3 spaces. So I would jump 1, 2, 3, and I would end up at positive 5. With negative numbers, if I had negative 2 plus negative 3, again I'm going to start at negative 2. First number tells me where to start. And if I'm adding a negative, that means go left. If I add a negative, I go left that many spaces. So I'm going to go left 3. 1, 2, 3, and I end up at negative 5. Here's a word problem. Luke withdrew money for 3 days. What was the total amount he withdrew? Now, key word here, if you withdraw money, that means money is going out of your bank account, and we represent that with a negative sign. Okay, so day 1 he withdrew 10, so minus 10. $10 comes out of the account. Okay, then he withdrew $5, so plus negative 5. Then he withdrew 15. All right, so as you can see here, that we have 3 negative numbers, so they all have the same sign. So what I'm going to do here is add the numbers and then keep the sign. 10 plus 5 is 15. 15 plus 5 is 30. So I add the numbers and I keep the sign. Since they're all negative, my answer is negative. Now, how much did he withdraw from his account? Well, he withdrew. That's what the negative sign tells me. He withdrew $30 in total. Word problem number 2. We have a construction crew that's digging a hole 5 feet deep on day 1. Day 2, they dig 3 more feet. Day 3, they dig 2 more feet. How deep is the hole now? Okay, so if they are digging this hole down, we can represent that with a negative sign. So on day 1, they dig 5 feet. 5 feet deep, so 5 feet. Then on day 2, they dig 3 more feet. So the hole gets 3 feet deeper, so I'm going to add negative 3 because it's going down 3 more. And then they dig it 2 more feet, so the hole gets 2 feet deep. Now, how deep is the hole altogether? So I have negative, negative, negative. All the numbers are negative, so I'm going to add and keep the sign. 5 plus 3 is 8. 8 plus 2 is 10. I added the numbers and I keep the sign. I keep the negative sign. So what this negative sign tells me is that this is 10 feet deep. That's how deep the hole is, 10 feet deep.